Hey, you guys, it is your girl AP, and I'm here with one half of the A&J podcast.
Hey y'all, hey. It's your boy Jay. I'm here with A. We're recording once again. It's been a long time. We shouldn't have left you, but we back like we left something.
I feel like we consistently always be like, we meant to be here. We're not going to do that today. We're not going to do that today. We're just going to dive right into this episode 3 of season 2.
Nope. No explanation.
No explanations needed because we grown. We don't need to explain. Life be lifing, and that's what it is.
We're here and we are ready to turn over a new leaf, but that's neither here nor there. We're here to talk. Today's topic is 13 years in. It's official. We are 13 years married and strong. And we are here to just share some of the things we've learned during that time with you and with each other, and to really just have, just give some positive energy to the people who have been where we are, who are trying to get where we are, and who are where we trying to go. You know what I mean? Like, we don't have all the answers, but we can share with y'all what we learn and what we know and what we're trying to strive for, and hopefully somebody can learn something, and we can be a help in your path to a successful marriage.
Facts. It's crazy because we've been together longer than 13. Ow! See this Nah, I ain't even gonna say that. That ain't even nice.
My hands quick.
But we've been together longer than 13 years. We're married for 13 years, and I told Jay the other day, like, it's wild to me that it seems like I can remember walking down the aisle. Like, feels like it wasn't that long ago, but at the same time it feels like it was that long ago, because when I look back on where we were, how old we were, how old our kids were, our youngest didn't even exist. Like, we didn't live in Georgia, and we've been in Georgia for almost a decade now at this point, because it's been about 8 years and come July. So much has changed in 13 years, and it may seem like it's not a long time. It kind of is. It kind of is.
Yeah, I mean, 5 years is a long time. Like, marriage years is kind of like dog years. Like, not to be negative, not to paint a negative light on it, but I mean, I don't think that's a negative thing. I think you just learn a lot rapidly over the course of marriage. I can't even say over the course of a relationship, because for all those people that are anti-marriage because they feel like marriage changed things, and for the people who aren't but still acknowledge marriage changed things, the fact is marriage does change things. We recognized it, we acknowledged it, and once we accepted that, we were able to move accordingly. Once we were accepting of the fact that marriage does change things. It's not the same as being boyfriend and girlfriend. It's not the same as being baby mama and baby daddy. It's not the same as shacking up. It takes on a new layer, a new complexity, and it's something that all those other things to me are like, to paint a metaphor is, it's like races. They're like sprints. Marriage is the marathon, though. It's the cross country of relationships. Like, because every milestone you hit is also a reminder that there's that much more remaining to go. Like, this is blood in, blood out, you know what I mean? To the death.
Gang, gang. Okay.
Yeah, like, it's not, and that's how we view it. That may not be how everybody views it, but that's how we view it. That's been our approach to it. Like, we're going to figure this out. We're going to figure out how to make it work. And as long as we're happy with ourselves and with each other, we're going to continue. And I'm not even going to say with ourselves. As long as we're happier with each other, we're going to continue to make that conscious effort to make this work and see it through.
Yeah.
I'm not telling anybody to stay in a relationship where you're not happy, where you're not satisfied, where you're not being fed, poured into, whatever the word is that
I
you
would definitely
use.
say prior to marriage, you know whether somebody is feeding you, nourishing you, pouring into you. So if you're in a relationship, not even marriage, because marriage is a different ball game. If you are not married yet and you recognize those signs, it's time to have some honest conversations with yourself, with one another, and decide where you're trying to go and what you're trying to do, and how you're trying to do it, and make sure that you guys are all on one accord and aligned. Because I do feel, in the beginning of our marriage, we weren't necessarily aligned in our thought process, and I think it made for some difficulties in the beginning of the marriage that didn't need to be there. And I've always, stated that I carried a lot of baggage into our marriage from things that had happened while we were still dating. And it really threw a monkey wrench in us. So if I can encourage anything, it's to definitely, while you're still in the dating stage, y'all need to be having honest communication and comprehending one another. Because if marriage is the goal, you gotta play it like a team. Because that's the only way you're gonna reach that goal. And then you gotta realize that marriage is only, like he said, it's a marathon. So it's only one goal of many. Like, you get there and then you still got other goals that you have to ascertain. But I think the biggest goal in my eyes is making this a thriving, lasting marriage. I think one of the things that I enjoy most about our marriage is the laughter that we've been able to share with one another. And I was thinking earlier today, because I knew we were going to sit down and we were going to chit chat, and I'm like, what is the funniest thing that you can remember in the course of our relationship, the course of our marriage?
Ooh, I didn't know you was gonna hit me with something like
Oh,
that.
yeah.
I really can't think. Like, you asking me to like really dig. I would have.
Where is the Jeopardy music?
I don't know. Like, I know we've had a lot of funny moments. We've been able to laugh at ourselves a lot. Like, doing silly. I can think. I know we had a lot of laughs when we went to the Poconos. What was the name of the place we stayed at?
Cove Haven Resort.
Like, we had a lot of fun.
We
Like,
did.
just being silly. Like, playing around
Roller
in
skating.
the lobby. Oh yeah, roller skating was horrible for me because I can't roller skate. I've never been able to.
That was when I
unless it was on
realized
carpet.
that I was not in my 20s anywhere. Was I? No, I was in my 20s, but it wasn't like I think that was the moment I realized, like, you're not a teenager anymore, Alicia. Like, it's not a thing, because I got them skates and everything is crying from head to toe. Definitely, like, we fooled around, we had fun. I think the thing that was so dope about Cove Haven Resort is we didn't have like a typical honeymoon after we got married. We were broke, y'all. We've said this before, but we did go stay at the Sheraton, for like the weekend or something like that, or overnight, just to be able to consummate the marriage. But a year into our marriage,
Not just to consummate the marriage. Let's
to get off the floor too.
For real, like, we didn't.
Yeah, we were sleeping
bed.
on my sister's floor.
We were staying with your sister. We were literally homeless. Like, we were in between homes. Like,
Yeah.
we stayed at a hotel, and for real, like, we slept more than we did anything because we had been without a bed for who knows how long.
I remember you going to 7-Eleven.
Yeah, because we
slept so late into the night that we couldn't even
and
get
we went
dinner.
to sleep. Like, it was nothing open. I woke up at like 11 or 11:30 or something, and we were downtown in Philly. It was nothing there. Like, it wasn't no Uber. It was none of that.
Yeah, man. We didn't have a car either. We didn't have a car. We had nothing.
It was cabs. It was buses. It was trains. And at that time, like, I wasn't getting one of them crazy buses going up and down Broad Street. Then, like,
you weren't a G like me.
That
I
was scary hours.
On
Nigga.
the
I
bus
wasn't
at
trying
1 o'clock
to.
in the morning.
Nah, I wasn't doing that. I wasn't going to work at the hospital or something like that. We was trying to figure out something to eat. I went to 7-Eleven. We got nachos, we got hot dogs and sausages or whatever. Like, ugh.
That was our honeymoon. So like, what made Copenhagen so dope was like it was like a year and some change into our marriage because we went.
Yeah, we had a
the
car
following year in the wintertime when we got married in May, right at the end of May. So we ended up going in the wintertime like December, I think, because there was snow on the ground.
It was like January, I think.
And so when I was a teenager, I was like 13. I had before I actually moved to Philly, my cousin, shout out to Joy and Les, they got married when they were like 19, and I loved everything about their wedding because it was. I mean, she looked like a princess. He looked like like Prince Charming. Everything is beautiful, and for a long time, like I fashioned my whole entire idea of a wedding off of hers, like because I loved it so much. I've told her this, but I remember her and her husband. They stayed at the Radisson, like downtown, for the night after their wedding, and then they went to the Poconos. And so, in my mind, the Poconos was like the ultimate couples escape or whatever. Of course, I didn't know any better at 13.
It probably was at that
time. And mind you, I was 13 when she got married, so I was like 97.
What was this like? It was, you said 97. Was
98,
this like
98.
So this was like 10 years later. Like the Poconos had fell off like in the middle of that.
It was
decade.
like 11 years later.
Because I used to go to the Poconos as a young boy when I was like in my
I just remember
early teens and stuff like that.
When I was growing up, there were
then.
Commercials for the Poconos.
Yeah.
And it always showed like the champagne tub, tower, jacuzzi.
The resorts that I used to go to, like we used to go on church trips to the Poconos. The resorts we used to go to that was big and nice and had clubs in them and ice skating, full length basketball courts, indoor pools, gyms, all that stuff. Jones was closed. They was shot out. The windows was boarded up. It looked like
when we went to Cove Haven, I forgot how I found it, but like they had like these main like couple places that I did want the champagne, but it was like I think more expensive. Anyway, we found it was a guard.
That was whack compared to what we had. Anyway, we could have got that. Our room actually cost more than that.
We did the Garden of Eden suite. And this was my first time going. This is what turned me on to having a pool in your room. But it was a cute little suite. It was a little cheesy. Like the decor was kind of like 1970s,
it was a little
80s.
older.
It was like red plush carpet, red couches. The carpet was red.
It wasn't corny. It had a little hint of sleeves.
It had
to it,
a little hint of. I wouldn't even say sleeves. It just felt like a 1975 porn was getting ready to get made.
It looked like the bed might rotate
so like
in there.
when you walk
in, mirror ceiling.
Yeah, when you walk in, there's like a little living room area, but there's like a heart-shaped jacuzzi in your living room, and there's like these like Coliseum type columns in the room and stuff like that.
And if you ever been to the cabins in Tennessee, they have those exact same heart-shaped
tubs in the cabin,
bubble bath tubs or whatever in there.
And then so the bed was circular. There's definitely mirrors. The bed was circular. Yeah. There was mirrors on the ceiling, and we had a fireplace in there. I don't think we lit it.
We did light it.
Did we?
We did.
And then like the bathroom was on one side, and it was a pretty nice size bathroom. Had a shower in there, his and her sinks, blah blah blah, little mini fridge. But then off of the bedroom was the little pool and the sauna room. And I just remember being super geeked to just be like in this nice room. I'd never stayed in a hotel that nice before, we had never been real romantic before.
Like so I would never say it was cheesy because it was dope. Like when you walked in, there was a little table there, it was a couch. It was like a living room setup when you walk in, but it had the jacuzzi right there. It had a TV and stuff up there, I think. Yeah, and then you step down, and that was where the bedroom was. Like a sunken-in
bedroom.
And the fireplace was across from the bed. We had a Bose system with surround sound. You know what I'm saying? There was a TV in there. It had the fireplace. It was spacious. I like that. That was dope. It was spacious. But then there was a room off the bedroom where the pool was at. And the pool was like a V shape. You know what I mean? I think it went from like 3 to maybe 5 feet or something like that. And it had a little sauna room. The sauna room was like, it had a bench in there, had the heat and join, and it was like enough for 2 people. But it was, I liked it. You know what I mean? It was definitely it was serious
for
heat up
me.
in
I had
there.
to be. I was like 25 at the time, and I'll be honest in saying like I had dated guys before Jared, but he was the first person who really took like a vested interest in like taking me out to do things. I was so laid back and chill, during my time of dating and seeing guys that I was cool with chilling in the crib, like, because I wasn't like, I liked going out with my girlfriends, but not necessarily going out with guys or whatever. I don't know what that was about. So I would do a lot of like low key stuff, like, let's watch a movie, whatever. We might go grab a bite to eat or something. Oftentimes, like, we all end up at the bar, and it was never like an intimate date. It would be like us and other people. Jared was the first guy who really like, even though it didn't have to be like a super fancy restaurant, like he was taking me out, like the two of us. So that trip kind of like marked the beginning of like, we kind of like sparked this desire to like get away and travel. Cause I'd never done it. Like, I'll be completely honest in saying that like the way my life had gone, traveling was not a part of my life because that's, I was a teen mom and other things happened, and it was like there was no time for that. So the fact that like he made the time to give me this honeymoon that we didn't get to have after we got married always stuck in my mind, and it was like the best experience. It was like it was just the two of us, like, and they had the banquet dining area. You could choose to be seated with other people, or you could choose for intimate dining. I think we did one night seated with other people, and then I think we did like one-on-one dining the whole other time.
But I think that was by mistake.
Yeah,
like, that was because we forgot to pick.
But there was definitely like we did pool, like, so they had like a little arcade.
Oh yeah, we played pool with that couple.
That couple who's clearly there with a side joint.
Yeah, it was they like that boy was like, what is he, probably like 35? That joint was like 20 maybe or something that he was with. Like,
he might have been like 40. She was in her 20s.
It was a big difference in age between them. Like, and they was just booed up. You know what I mean?
We did like mini golf. I did bust my tail in the snow and twist my ankle that weekend. So definitely it was a fun weekend for me, honestly. And the thing that I think that I remember most, it sounds crazy, but I didn't feel like my prettiest. I think I had just started locking my hair, so it wasn't like styled. Like my fashion sense was not what it is now, and so I didn't feel as cute as I wanted to feel. I was actually going through a time with having put on some weight after having Jelani and getting married. They say that happy weight, it was a very real thing. Now we know it was my thyroid, but so I just felt kind of like in my head. I was in my head a lot, and nothing that Jay did made me feel like that. Like it
wasn't 2007 when we went there.
No,
it was
2010.
Yeah, I was about to say, it had to have been like.
That's what I said. It was after having Jelani, had put on some weight, and after being married. So
like 13 years after Joy and I got married, because you said they got married in 97?
98, I believe. 98. So it was just, the things what I remember most is, despite the discomfort that I was feeling personally with myself, we were having such a great time. Like, I just enjoyed the ride up. Like, I still have pictures from this. Like, I was taking video and like pictures of like.
You ain't drive up there?
No,
that must have been after I got my license back then.
It was like the little town villages and stuff, because it was like really small town. Like, I take pictures and stuff, like the little stores. We stopped at the liquor store, so you bought like those little mini.
About the little wine,
yeah, Sutter Homes.
We was drinking Moscato back then.
Oof! How dare I? How dare I?
I bought you them little.
They were Sutter
Moscato,
Homes,
and I had like some whiskey. And I don't remember what else we had. Maybe we had some beers or something. I can't remember. But we was up in the sticks. Like, it
For
was
sure.
chilling up there, though.
And then
Like,
I remember distinctly that where we stayed had no windows.
yeah, it was. We had soundproof rooms. It was no windows, so you couldn't really. The weird thing was, I think we were able to hear somebody else in one of the other joints, because I remember the way it was like the rooms were in like little cylinder style sections. Like, it wasn't a hotel style joint. It was like a cylinder, and it was maybe like 6 or 4 rooms to a cylinder, and you could hear. You could all the rooms are supposed to be soundproof, but I remember hearing somebody coming through the vent, like hearing somebody messing around or whatever coming through the vent.
I don't remember hearing nobody.
Other than that, like, and that only happened like one time. Like, it was really peaceful, quiet. We ain't see nobody. Like, you could see cars come and go when you walked outside to go. Like, you really, if you wanted to, you could go there and not leave your room. Because
you could have food delivered.
They would bring you room service. You know what I mean? You can ask for breakfast. I don't know. I can't remember if it was extra for that. I know. It was like, I know lunch wasn't included.
Lunch wasn't included, but breakfast that was extra. Included and dinner.
They could bring you your food upon request.
I also thought it was dope. Like that, it was like an all inclusive resort. So you could, with the exception of lunch, you could get your food for free.
Not uncommon.
I didn't know at the time. It was my first time. Thank you.
That
was probably like one of the best, not one of the only trips, one of the best trips for me, only because that was like the monumental trip of like us together traveling somewhere outside of like me going up to Connecticut.
For me too. Like, I mean, I had been on other trips and stuff like that, but it was one of the trips that to this day still stands out in my mind. Like, I actually measure other trips up against that, honestly, like that we've gone on since then, because the overall experience, like what we got to do, they had snowmobiles and stuff there that you could ride. They would make the snow if you needed it. Like, it really was. I think when we went, it was kind of like a down period, but like on the weekends, they had performances and stuff like that. Comedians and singers and stuff was coming. We went in like the middle of the week or something like that.
It was cheaper.
So nobody was
Definitely
there.
Cheaper.
Of course, it was cheaper. Like we said before, we was on the rise out of our brokenness. We was still this was broke. We was like right here on broke. Like, and it ain't like we only like right here now. Like, it ain't like we got it right now. You know what I mean? I'm not even here.
I can't even say that. Like, in comparison to where we were from start to finish.
Oh, it's light years.
It's like light years away. So we may not be, Beyonce and Jay-Z, but I'm never going to complain about where we're at now. I would never even dare to do that.
Of course not. Like, I mean, we're definitely in a better space. Like, if we wasn't in a better space right now, like if we were still where we was at then, I don't know how we would be doing anything. Like, we might be busting down a can of dog food at this point. Like, I don't know how. More power to anybody who is where we were then in 2022, because like everything was cheaper and easier to do. So like our pay rose commensurate with the times. You know what I mean? Like, the rent was more affordable. Food was more affordable. We had...
And there was some wild times. Let me tell y'all about rent. Now that you brought that up. So, first of all, before we got married, and I was living in my apartment up in Frankfurt, I know I lived on top of a Chinese restaurant, but my rent was $550 a month. $550 a month for a 2-bedroom. I had a bathroom and a half.
And she had a nice size 2-bedroom.
And it was a nice size 2-bedroom. I can't even front. The bedrooms were nice size and everything. Now, I was lacking an eat-in kitchen, so my refrigerator was like in the corner of my living room. But that was a trade-off considering the space that I had, and what the rent was. And it was an all electric apartment, so I had no gas. It was all heat. I meant electric heat.
And
But
for real,
even
it
like
was even a fireplace in that joint. Even though
it
it
was
wasn't like a
closed up,
working
yeah.
fireplace, like aesthetically, it was still a fireplace there.
Then like when we lived on Millick, rent was like what, 800 or something.
No, it wasn't even that much. Cause like I want to say our rent was like $675 or something over there. Like it wasn't crazy. Like
I feel like our rent was a little higher than
it
that.
wasn't. It wasn't. It really wasn't. Cause like the
Well, if it
most we
wasn't-
ever paid. The most rent we ever paid in
It might have
Philly
been like
was
$650.
$750.
But like even on Millick
Like-
Street, we had a full. It was a row home. You know what I mean? We had a 3-bedroom. It was 1 bathroom, but we had a 3-bedroom, living room, dining room, kitchen, and it was nice. It was like our starter home basically, and that was like $675. And then when we lived on Fraser. Well, before Fraser was
we
Arch
lived-
Street.
Yeah, we lived on Arch Street, and Arch Street was like, I think that might have been $550.
Our street was our humble apartment, like
Our humble
coming out of
abode.
homelessness, right? And so
Like
we
the
had
only
left my
thing that was
sister's
full
crib.
size at that crib was our kitchen.
The kitchen was nice size,
We
but
had
we
an
literally
eat-in
had
kitchen.
we had no living room. We had 2 bedrooms,
Yeah, we had
2 bedrooms,
we had 2 rooms. Let's
two
say
rooms.
We had 2
that
rooms.
were adjoining.
We had the upstairs of a duplex, and this was like a row home duplex.
Not really.
Yeah, it was. It was.
Those weren't apartments. Because
It was a duplex that was converted into apartments.
I
Like
don't know. It felt like apartments as far as I
Like-
don't know. 56 hours. But I have to Google it.
it
later.
was, but it was row homes. Like
But,
it was us upstairs and the girl downstairs.
That's
and the
not
girl
what makes a row
downstairs.
home, though.
No,
It was
what
apartment
made it a
living.
row home was that it was a nigga living to the right of us and it was a nigga living to the left of us,
Yeah, but that's
and
apartment buildings.
No, Alicia, they had houses.
Our apartment wasn't a house though. I'm a pull.
Our neighbors to the right of us had a house.
I can't recall that. I can't confirm it.
I'm confirming
I'm
it for
done
you.
Google.
They had a house. Like now, it might. I don't even think the joint next to us was an apartment. Like that whole street wasn't apartments. It was some
No,
houses.
I'm not saying the whole street
It was houses mixed in there. They were row homes. Ours just happened to be a converted
you know
row
what I'm gonna do?
home.
I'm gonna Google and then I'm gonna put an
Listen,
annotation
it
in.
was the same
when I'm
as
done.
it was the same thing as Kingston Road because the girl downstairs
No.
had access. Yes, it was.
I don't believe it.
It was the exact same thing. The only difference
Kingston
between
Road, by the way, was his Upper Darby apartment.
The
But
only
anyway,
difference-
we
hold
besides
on,
the
hold
point.
on.
We're
No,
besides
no,
the point
no,
right
no.
now. At any rate, that apartment was dumb small. We had a bathroom. It was dumb small. Just getting caught up on semantics. What's your favorite thing to do? And then after Arch Street, we literally moved up the street to Fraser Street.
everywhere we moved was in like a couple of blocks of each other because like we
from
was
Millick, we stayed with my sister on what 62nd.
we was first of all we started on Millick Street after we left from Frankfurt.
Yeah.
Your sister moved to 62nd Street. We lived with her from 62nd Street. We
were on
went to
56th and Arch.
56th and Arch. From 56th and Arch, we moved to Fraser Street, which was
Between 56th and 57th.
yeah, like we was right. We did
We
some
literally
real like
moved up the
around
street.
the way,
But even
hood hopping.
Fraser was decent because it was a full house. We had a
Fraser had mad potential.
if it was being
We
managed
couldn't-
properly.
Like we thought we had a still. It was a nice crib, but what we found out over the course of the time, nobody had lived there in that crib for as long as we stayed there, and the landlord was janky. He was a real. I'm not going to get into ethnicities or nothing, but he was like a miser from New York. You know what I mean? That crib could have been rented then. Like when you looked it up on Zillow, like the estimates for the rent or whatever was like
Way into the 1300s.
yeah, they was like I want to say they was like 14, 15.
We were paying $750 a month.
Yeah, we was.
And what we had? We had a 4-bedroom.
Yeah, it might have been. Now that might have been $850. Maybe it was $850.
No, our rent was $750. I still have
Like,
the email and
but-
I have rent receipts. Yeah.
It was nice even in the summertime because we didn't have nothing had central air, but it was comfortable downstairs. We had high ceilings. We had a huge living room. We had a nice
Dining
sized
room, and
dining
we had
room.
an eating
We had an
kitchen.
eating kitchen, and we
A
had
basement I never went
a
into.
washroom in the back. We
Yep.
had a huge basement that was wide
Not a
open,
lot of
but it
yard
was
space,
nasty down
but we
there.
were we were in a duplex at that point. It wasn't technically row homes because
Yeah,
it was like two houses,
yeah,
adjoining,
those
and
were
then
twin homes. But we had it was nice. That was a big home, and honestly, like after moving down here, I looked at all the square footage of the cribs that I grew up in, like my aunts, my uncles' home, my grandparents, my parents. Like that was probably like the biggest home I had ever known to that point. You know what I mean? Like the cribs I grew up in, they felt huge, humongous to me. Like looking at the square footage of them, though, after the fact, they were like 1,000, 1,100,
let me
1,200,
tell you,
1,300.
at
That's
least when you were growing up, it was you were not that you're an only child, but you grew up as an only child, right? It was four of us and my mom and dad, so that makes six of us. We house hopped a lot as kids. We lived in all different parts of New Haven, Connecticut, and the vicinity. But the last house we all lived in together, everywhere we moved, like my dad will always have to add on to make space for our family. So like they bought a home, and like my mom got this grant through her job because she used to work for Yale, and Yale's like really big in Connecticut, and they got these grants for home ownership. So they were able to add on to the last house we lived in together as a family. So they expanded the attic and basically put another floor on there so that they could make a bedroom for my brother because he was the only boy, and make a bedroom for my mom and my dad, and even put a little bathroom in their bedroom. But growing up, that house felt like good size. Like we had a finished basement on one side. Um, my oldest sister had her own bedroom. Me and my other sister shared a room. But we had a nice sized room. Everything felt pretty spacious, like the living room. But when you're younger, everything feels bigger. I looked that house up not too long ago.
yeah.
That house was like 1,200 square feet. And I could not wrap my mind around the fact that six of us lived in a 1,200 square feet home. Now, where we live now, like, since we moved down here, I never paid attention to square footage before, I think, before moving down here. And really learning about what is sizable to accommodate, the needs of our family. Because we have a unique situation. My whole family lives together. Like mom, dad, stepmom, sister, brother, the whole 9 yards, brother-in-law. So we need space. So prior to living down here, I never looked at square footage. I just know that like with each like place we moved in Philly, like we kind of like upgraded each time.
Yeah.
And I just remember thinking to myself, after we moved into here, and really just like getting accustomed to having all of this space, because like we have a huge master suite, which is almost like this gift that's been bestowed upon us for all of the hard work we've done over the years. But when I look at where we're at now versus where we were at, I still don't look back on those times negatively though. Like we were in the process of growing and building us, and we definitely
Wow.
had some rough patches during those times, but
And for me, like, I'm always the one that's like worried about being prepared for the worst case scenario, like losing a job, losing a car, you know what I mean? Making sure that we can pay the bills no matter what happens, you know what I mean? So, like, I was resistant to moving out of Frankfurt, even though we had a 2-bedroom apartment. Our daughter lived in the 1-bedroom, so that was already accounted for. And her bedroom was perfect for her, but it was modest. Like, so we could have put a bassinet in there for a baby and made it work or whatever, but like she was concerned about the kids having the space that they needed. You know what I mean? Us as a family having the space that we needed. So like we got a house in West Philly. We got out of Frankfurt. That was cool stuff happened. We moved out of there. We moved into our little apartment. Now it's four of us, son, daughter. We moved in a smaller apartment than the one that we had, and like again, we stayed there for like a year or two. I was resistant to us moving out of there because I'm like, yo, I know I can pay this rent with one paycheck, and I get four of them a month. I'm gonna pay. I'm gonna be able to hold this down. I could lose my job and pay this, like, you know what I mean? Because at that time I was a contractor, so I would work till the contract ended, get laid off, collect unemployment, and just like tighten my belt. Basically, like nothing really would change. I would just stay home, take care of my kids, and keep it moving. You know what I mean?
Like, and our street is where I started my legal career.
Yeah, you started at Digital Legal while we was there.
Yeah, I did. And it's crazy. Like, when I think back at that time, I be thinking about like all our little trips to like Franklin Mills with the kids.
Yeah.
Going to Burlington Coat Factory.
When we stayed in Philly. We lived
at
Franklin Mills and Burlington Coat Factory.
Like,
Even when we didn't go to the one at Franklin Mills, we would go to the one up the boulevard, and Walmart. You know
lived in Walmart.
Like that was the one thing I liked living in the Northeast, because it was like living in the city but not living in the city. Like, I had a car then, even though I was riding dirty for a minute because I ain't have no license,
Criminal,
no insurance. My car was unregistered, like all of that. You know what I mean? But we had it. It was like I figured the lay of the land out. Like, I had I knew where all my spots was. I knew where I wanted to go to get this. I knew where I wanted to go get that. Like, it was chilling. I liked it up there. I really didn't want to move. I got accustomed to being there from, like, we was there for what, like, you was there for a year, but I came like maybe 4 months into you being there, 5 months into
I moved. You always say,
because I was there after your lease was renewed. So you was there for more than a year.
Yes, I was going to say I moved into Frankfurt in October, beginning of October 2006. 2006.
Okay. Yeah, because I moved in 2007.
We moved out in June of 2008. It was like a month before Jaylani was born. We signed our lease at the end of May and moved in June of 2008. So I was there for well over a year, like a year and a half.
Yeah, because I remember I was paying the rent like towards the end, and you was doing like a month-to-month thing. Because you had paid up the rent for a year.
Yeah,
I paid the rent for the rest of the time that we were there past that year.
So, like, it was so, like, it was so many moments, though, in each of those places, each of the... So, like, when I first moved to Philly, all I knew was north, because that's where I lived. Like, when I first moved to Philly, I had lived on Girard Ave, and all of my exploration was happening up and down Broad Street, Susquehanna, Diamond. I lived on Fontaine, lived on Lindley Ave, Erie, 16th and Erie. Like, everything about my experience in Philly for like the first 5 years of me being there was like always up north. Even with me moving to Upper Darby with you was kind of like my first time away from the north. And then that, because Upper Darby is so close to West Philly, is where I kind of like started venturing into West Philly a little bit and getting familiar with it. Because we would run up and down 69th Street and go up like 62nd and all that stuff to do little stuff and then catching the train, yada, 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 whatever. But when we moved to Millick was like our entrances into living in West. And like once we were in West, we stayed there for the remaining time that we were there. And we were there for 5 years.
Yeah, because I had, like, I was already coming to West regularly because my family lived over there, but like
we were in West for 6 years.
It was like, so like when us moving there wasn't as foreign, especially after I had been in Upper Darby for like 2 years. Like it was like the natural. It's crazy because I'm gonna say it was like the natural progression, because like I had a 1 bedroom in Upper Darby, and I was always looking at West Philly like, yo, I go get a crib in West Philly and pay a little bit less than what I'm paying now, and I could get 2 bedrooms. You know what I mean? Like, so for a minute I was thinking about moving over there or getting another 1 bedroom and paying like maybe $100 less or something like that, something stupid like that. But I never did it. Like, I ended up moving out my crib into her apartment on the humbug. Really, like, it wasn't really supposed to be that way, but I was high in my car. Like, let's be
you
realistic.
gotta stop acting like it was just because you was high in your car. I remember that, but you gotta stop acting like that was your only motivation. Okay,
no,
you got it.
No, you
got it because you feel the need to stress that all the time.
It was more. It's always more complex than that. But like,
okay, then. So how come you feel like you always have to say it?
Let me explain my mind state at that time. Then, so we can. She gonna act like this after 13 years of marriage, but no, like,
cause you petty.
Cause we had
this be so annoying.
We was having we was in a super weird place at that time. Like, it was a super weird place. We ain't know. You being a cornball.
I have to go to the bathroom.
We was in a super weird place at that time. We really didn't know what we was doing, what we was trying to do. We were still messing around, but we were still seeing other people. We weren't anything official. We was just still kicking it with each other, still messing around and stuff. And I was dealing with somebody else. We had stopped dealing with each other because she found out that me and Alicia was still dealing with each other. And I had falling behind on my car payments. I was like, I was working mad far away. Like, I was working in like Bear, Delaware. I was like, I gotta move my car because these niggas gonna try and take my car. I was parking my car like 2 blocks away from the crib, walking like, 10 minutes to the crib, you know what I mean, trying to duck the car. Every now and then taking a chance, like parking it in front of the crib because I was just like, I'm gonna just run in and run out and be out. But finally I was like, I need to come stay with you because these niggas gonna try and take my car. I don't really want to be here right now because me and the joint had stopped messing, and it just felt weird. Like, everything felt weird at that time. Like, so came up there, I chilled. We was being cool, but we really wasn't. Even though we had been messing with each other, we had kind of stopped for a little bit, and I was like, I just need somewhere to stash my car. I want to come stay. You know what I mean? I'll stay. She was like, oh, well, it's cool. Like, it's nothing. Like, you can come stay. Like, you can stash your car up here.
That's
it's fine.
Exactly what happened.
That was literally what you said when I called you and asked you. I'm like, this is weird. I know this is weird, but I need to stash my car because this nigga's gonna take my car. I need my car that I'll keep working. And you like, you was like, you can come stay. Like, it's not.
I'm only here for the body heat. I don't like you.
And so I stayed, and like, after that first night, it just was like, we just fell back into place. Like, literally, I'm gonna say this, like, that kind of was like the turning point in our relationship. That was beginning of us, like, really being
Are you done
serious,
with this so I can make my point?
Really being serious and exclusive. Like, everything kind of snowballed from that moment. Because I never went back home after that. Like, I went back home, like, I had clothes there. I was slowly but surely moving all my stuff in
my
house.
Point is that you always like to put emphasis on the fact that I need to stash my car, but that's
literally what the origin is.
Can I finish talking? I'm not speaking to the origin. I'm speaking about the reason why you stayed, my nigga. Like, you stayed doing that.
I stayed because I like us.
Because what?
I like us.
Oh, okay. That's the more important part. Now I need to stash my car, which for some reason you always revert back to that. Like, did nobody ask that?
It was,
that's not. But that's never the point that I'm making. But you always bring it back to that. Like, you gotta tell I need to stash my car, nigga. That's not why you stayed there though. Like, let's not act like you stayed there.
I'm just trying to keep it a bean.
Okay, you trying to keep it a bean, but you also trying to minimize.
I'm not trying to minimize.
You are.
I'm clearly not trying to diminish anything because.
But if that's the case, then why do you always do that?
and it's
Why do you
this
always
is
do
what
that?
17 years in the making.
So what?
Like, you know what I'm
Don't
saying?
try to pull
Like,
that cap with me now.
ain't no cap. This is facts. Facts on facts on facts.
These are the things about him that get on my nerves now that we're here at this point. He has a problem with semantics. Like, but only when it suits him. Like, he will nitpick something to death and it will be irrelevant to whatever is being discussed. If it nope, it's
Look,
what you do.
We got two. I'm gonna say 2.5 kids on the spectrum, right? Like, so it come. They get it honestly. So
From you.
I apologize for nothing if I hyper focus at times, and you got your OCDs and ticks and whatever else you want to talk about. So like, you know what I mean? Like,
you to do that.
We all got our stuff with us. So you know what I mean? Like,
You got your stuff with you.
Don't put it all on me, Ricky Bobby.
Speak for yourself.
Them kids get it honestly.
Speak
Like,
for yourself.
I don't deny that I probably got some stuff. Like, you know what I
You
mean?
don't say.
I ain't never been diagnosed officially.
You should have been.
So I'm standing on that. But
You should have been.
You know what I mean?
Somebody should diagnose you. I didn't diagnose you. Like 5 minutes into our relationship,
like,
I told you had
don't
ADHD.
count, though. You do not count. Like,
I don't, but was I right about our children?
After they were formally diagnosed?
No. I was right because I knew something was off. All the diagnosis did was confirm what I had been saying. He hates to give me credit too.
No, I do not.
Yes, he does. Yes, he does.
Hold on. No, I give her all kinds of credit.
Don't rub my head. Don't rub my head. Don't rub my head.
She is the rock star. She is my Beyonce.
No.
She is
my
pop star, as my son says. You know what I'm saying? Like,
there's not enough liquor.
She's the queen.
There's not enough liquor for this.
She does her thing. Like, she is the A Mike of the A and J podcast. I'm the man behind the woman. I love her. She's great. She's intelligent. I tell her all the time, I think she's smarter than me. You know what I mean? I have no qualms about saying that. Like, it is what it is.
You out here using big words, shit.
I'm not, and I say that to say I'm not no slouch either. If I'm giving you that credit, I don't really. First of all, get out my face. Like, this is not school, nigga. You're not gonna call me out because I use the word. You know what qualm is?
I know.
You know. They know what it is, and if they don't, they'll look it up. Like, I'm not here to give Webster's definition at whatever time this is in the evening. Like, don't try to play me.
I wasn't. I was just like, Jared like to pretend like he low key, but then he be tossing out these $5 words.
I'm an intelligent
baby
Negro. Like, I do not profess to be anything else. I will never claim to be anything else, but at the very least, you're not going to deny
Where
that
you
I
going,
have some
Pumpkin?
level of
Your bed
intelligence.
is over there.
That's bed number 2 over there.
He like that corner.
You got a little pallet over there.
We recently just got a dog. His name is Skips, and we love him. He's a beagle. He is adorable and loving, and it completes like the suburban dream that I've had my entire life. That's the other thing. Despite him being a jerk right now, I'm very grateful that in my lifetime I've been able to achieve, no matter how long it lasts, it doesn't last, this dream I've had since I was a kid. I always wanted, I grew up in not the best neighborhoods or whatever, and my parents just didn't have the money for us to be able to afford to live. Connecticut is very expensive for those who do not know. And I remember like riding through places like Amity and Woodbridge or parts of Hamden, wondering what it was like to be on the other side of those walls of nice homes. And honestly, us moving down here has given me the access to that, and to be able to raise my kids in that. And that feels beautiful. That feels like something I've needed to check off my list. And I know, it may not be reasonable to a lot of people. And I know that times can change, and at any given moment, it can shift. And this may not be our circumstances anymore, but I'm just grateful to have it and to be able to give it to my kids, because it was just something that I desired so much, just to, in this juncture of my life, be able to say, like, my kids live in a pretty decent neighborhood. We have a nice home. That feels good, especially coming from my background of just hopping around so much as a kid. That feels beautiful to me.
Yeah, I mean, in this, while we don't have that in common. I did not hop around as a kid. Like I literally grew up in I lived in an apartment for like the first couple of years of my life. I lived in a house for what I'll say is like the middle part of my childhood, and I lived in a townhouse for the remainder part of my teenage years into my adult life before I moved out. And when I moved out, I went and lived in the house that I grew up in for the middle part of my life. So like I literally lived in those three houses. I stayed with family briefly for a couple months between the first house and the townhouse. That was all I knew until I moved out on my own. And as a parent, as an adult, as a married person with children, like I respect what it took for my mom and dad to maintain that level of stability that I enjoyed, you know, even though my parents got divorced in the midst of that, which is why we moved in the townhouse. You know what I'm saying? They separated and later divorced when I was in college. Like, yeah, through all of that, like they were still effectively co-parenting. You know what I mean? I actually will say my relationship with my parents actually improved after their separation. But like I didn't feel like my life suffered as a result of them and their issues or whatever. I felt completely separated from it. And I never held that against them at any time. Like I respect the stability that they offered me, and you know still allowed me to enjoy life with them and by myself, and they gave me the opportunities to explore myself and all that stuff. Like that's the bar that I hold myself to as a parent, that I want for my kids. I love that I've been able to give them the stability that they've enjoyed. My daughter, who is not my biological daughter, but is my daughter in every other sense of the word, period. I will never call her my stepdaughter. She was with me from 2 and some change to, 18. You know what I mean? And she got the most lumps out of everybody, but like, she was there with us from not having a bedroom, sleeping on the couch, to having her own room, to having, a nice
Prior
room.
to meeting you, like she was with me, and I definitely, I recognize that there was a lot of instability in my life, especially prior to meeting you. But I'm forever grateful that we were able to like find our rhythm as a couple.
And we always have tried to be the best parents we could be. Like whether it was, giving them the experiences, even if it took a little bit extra, we had to change things around. Like sending her to dance classes, trying to find extracurricular stuff to get the kids into, putting them in, for lack of a better word, private school. Even when we were in Philly, like the school system sucked.
Homeschooling.
Like we was homeschooling, sending them to private schools and stuff like that. We was making it happen, and with a shoestring budget. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Doing what we could to just make sure that they got the best that we could give to them. And that was important for me because, like I said, my parents set the bar for me of what I thought I needed to give to my kids. I wanted them to be better than me, so that meant they needed to have better than what I had in my eyes.
It's those things though. So like, I've had conversations and I've had people ask me like, what made you, like, how did you know Jared was the one? Like, what made you stay in your relationship? Because we've spoken to the fact that there were times when we weren't sure what was going to happen with us. And I always tell people, like, once I can get outside of my own head and my own hang-ups and selfishness, I saw the bigger picture. And I saw how much, despite his imperfections and the things that he did that got on my nerves, I knew he loved me and I knew he loved our kids. And I knew he loved Ashira before, Jelani existed. Like, he showed that to me. And I knew that he was going to do whatever it took within his power to try to give us a better life. And I think, now it's like taboo to talk about, as women, it's taboo to say you willing to wait and be patient and grow with me, and because I'm the table, I bring this to the table, all that stuff. But I don't regret being with you, at your less than savory, moments and growing with you, because I think that experience of growing with you made us a better couple.
And I think that's important too, though, right? Like, and that's something that I wanted to mention earlier, because marriage changes things, but people change too. People can change, because we both had to do some evolving over the course of our time together. And I think your marriage can only be successful if you continue to do that you continue to grow together. You know what I mean? Whatever direction y'all growing, like, y'all got to do it together. Like, you ever see, like, when people are growing, vegetables or plants or whatever, when they tie them to that thing to keep them going straight, like, that's kind of like how marriage is to me. Like, we need to be bound together, like, so we can go in the right direction that we need to go. And I think that's, we wasn't that at the beginning. Like, we was trying to grow, but we were thinking more independently. Yeah, we was married, but we were trying to be married and doing two separate things. Like, and it took maybe like a year or two before we figured out, like, for us to really be married and successfully happy together, we got to be working on one accord. And it probably took longer than that. Like, I'm going to say it probably took us, like,
I'd say the first 5 years of our marriage.
Yeah, like
4 to 5 years, it really took.
We really didn't figure it out until, I'll say, we decided that we was going to move down here. Like, that, because that was us kind of coming to understanding, like, yo, this is what we need, where we need to be, what we need to do to make this work for both of us. And, like, that decision was for us to improve as a couple, but it was for us to improve as a family too. Like, the things that I've been able to give my kids since being down here in Georgia, like, I know I would have never been able to give them to them up there. Like, things could have improved of where we were, 8 years ago, but, like, we've thrived down here, you know what I mean? Like, and I think for them, like, it's giving them a different perspective. Like, our kids don't, like, Lonnie was so young, he don't remember some of the struggles we had before, you know what I mean? Like, we would hide stuff from them when we was really going through it. If the lights got cut off, if the water got cut off, I don't think the gas never got cut off, but you know what I mean? Like,
gas definitely got cut off on Millick.
Did it? Well, yeah, on Millick it did. Like, but he really was stupid young man. Yeah. You know what I mean? But, like, when we was going through that type of stuff, like,
it was a game.
Like, we was like, oh, go over here and spend the night. Like, go spend some time with your grandmother. You know what I mean? Let's go to Connecticut. Like, we gonna send both of y'all to Connecticut this time. Like, y'all have fun. Go chill up there for like a month. You know what I mean? Like, we tried to match that from them. So now, like, my boys is like, my youngest son is the worst because he like, yo, I'm like, he asks for stuff every day. Like, and he like, can you get, he's like, I want this. And I'm like, but do you got money for that? No. But you got
do,
money for that.
Exactly. After my son spent the last year and some change telling me I was broke and didn't have a job. I'm like, and now he's like, he used to be like, you don't have money, Mom. You don't go to work. And I'm like,
he'd be like, I don't got money. I don't need money because you got money. You can go buy it for me and give me what I just asked for. I'm like, yo, where do you come from? My other son think like I can just buy him games anytime he find a new one. Like yo, this game costs $40, but this week it's on sale for $38.99. I think you might want to get that right now while it's on sale.
And then what I love about Bonnie is he asks his dad for games. He don't ever ask me for games. He'll ask me for books and stuff. Dad's the game guy. But he will like text his grandmother. He will text his mom, Jared's mom. I'm like, hey mom, this is game, like, because no filters or whatever. But in the same breath, I'm so
when it comes to conversation,
grateful that they've had that safety and security to not have to know the struggles. And even when I talk to my daughter, and she was with me through a lot of stuff, she does not look at, when she says things back to me, she don't remember that stuff as a struggle. Like, she remembered, like,
because it's so far back.
Yeah, for her, like, it's like, oh no, like we lived at
she'll remember. It's like she don't remember anything that happened before middle school.
Like she'd just be like, no, I liked walking to the corner store, or doing like this and that. When she thinks about Philly, she thinks about all the fun stuff that we did, and that's the thing. We did make an effort to make it fun for them. Yeah. Like, we were doing the Please Touch Museum, Franklin Institute,
and even
Smith Memorial Playground. Like, we were just doing stuff with them.
Like, we ain't have mad money, but like, she remember when we would take her and buy princess dresses for her at one point
from Burlington,
and because we ain't have a lot of money and we was like working temp jobs and contract assignments and stuff like that, we getting paid every week. So like, she was getting a new dress every week. Like, it was times where I would take them and buy toys every week. They didn't realize I was buying them toys because we lost all the toys somehow, some way in the process of moving. Yeah. From the north to the south. Like, so I'm slowly but surely replenishing a toy stash or whatever. You know what I mean? Because I felt guilty. My kids moved and lost all their stuff.
I'll never forget. I have a friend, well, he's an ex-friend, but he was around for a really long time and was there from the time my daughter was like 8 months old and onwards. So he was there through the birth of Jaylani, and he brought her home one day after he had taken her out and was just like, your kids are so sheltered. And this was very hypocritical coming from someone who grew up in Piscataway, New Jersey, but we'll leave that alone. And he was just like, I think your daughter is like out of touch with reality, because it's like y'all are raising them like y'all the Cosbys. And it was like, I know he was trying to like teach me something about parenting when he had no kids whatsoever, but I'm like, good.
Yeah, for real. Like,
there's worse things that could be said about the way my kids are being raised.
He wasn't the only person who said that to us. And like, mind you, our kids are sheltered, but like, Jared lived with us on Frankfurt Ave. Like, she walked to the train. She walked to the corner stores on Frankfurt Ave. Like, we walked up the Bridge Street to catch the L. Like, it's crack whores, dope fiends, a methadone clinic across the street. This niggas chopping.
We lived on top of a Chinese restaurant, for God's sake. Like,
you know what I mean? It's cats buying Lucy's. It's a police is a police trailer that got parked in front of the crib at one time. Like they was snatching. This is when they was doing stop and frisk.
Oh,
They
that's
was
right.
snatching
Right
niggas
across the
off the
street.
street.
Yeah.
I watched cats get snatched off the block, put in that paddy wagon. You was getting cased, you know what I mean, sentenced and everything on the spot right then and there. Like we lived through that. Like we didn't see crackheads get hit, you know what I mean? We lived on our street. It was a dope street. Like them niggas was outside fighting over dope at 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning every night. I would wake up and hear these niggas outside beefing over stems and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like, but in the midst of all of that, my kids ain't know. Like, when they remember going outside, they remember going to the block parties when we lived on the nice block that had trees outside. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. We had dogs. We taken the
going
dog
to the
for
park.
A walk, going to different parks.
Yeah, and we would like take them
cats,
to like all these different little parks, not necessarily ones in the neighborhood. Like, I'm grateful that that's the experience that my kids have.
My kids ain't grow up fighting, you know what I mean, getting jumped, getting chased home or nothing like that by other kids, having beef. My daughter went to concerts as a young John, you know what I mean, at the Man and the Dell and stuff like that, in Fairmount Park. You know what I mean? They had good experiences. Shire was back and forth to Connecticut and stuff like that. Like, and even though she always was adjacent to the hood, like she never was far removed from that. That's not who our children were. That's not how our children was raised. We gave them morals and foundation and structure and cause and effect and taught them responsibility.
Even when we weren't at our best as a unit, we were still invested in our kids. And I think for me, that spoke volumes too about us. Like, if we can pour this energy into making sure our kids have the structure that they need, we should be able to do that for each other.
Yeah, and please understand, like, when we say these things, it's not to disparage anybody's circumstances or look down upon anything.
Nah, because we went through
it. But it's, for sure, like, but at the end of the day, I always was taught by my parents that they wanted me to be better than them, and I wanted my kids to be better than me. Yep. Now, whether I successfully have achieved that, time still remains. But like, I wanted to give them the same that was given to me, if not better, so that they could achieve better than what I did. Like, and I think that as parents, that's what we should all be trying to do for our children. You know what I mean? We should all want the next generation to be better, whether they truly can be or not. You know what I mean? That's a whole nother topic. But
so let me ask you then, since we're coming up to our wrapping point, how would you sum up your thoughts on our 13 years of marriage?
Well, to keep it simple, I say it's like the Whisper song. It just gets better with time, right? You know what I mean? Like, and not to be corny or whatever, but and also to keep it kind of Philly. But yeah, man, it gets better with time because, like, for us, we started off really dysfunctional. You know what I mean? Like, really, we should definitely not be where we at today. We probably shouldn't have ever started the way that we did, but clearly we were brought together for a reason. Like, and over time we came to not just understand each other, but understand what we were signing on for, what we committed to. And over that course of time, in that process of learning each other, we learned what marriage was really about, you know what I mean? And that helped strengthen us to the point where I think when we got married, we wouldn't have said we were each other's best friends, right? We were friends. We were very good friends. But at this stage of our relationship, we are each other's best friend. Like, we do everything together. Everything that we, you know, for the most part, like, we still have our time apart, which helps us appreciate the time we spend together even more. But, like, we do everything together. Like we spend like probably 90 to 80%, 80 to 90% of our time together. You know, our free time together. Like if we not working, we with each other. Like we chilling, watching movies. You know what I mean? Just talking, vibing, whatever. Or you know, we going out and doing something. We watching a movie. We going to the movies. We going to do something. We going to eat. Whatever it is. Like, and it's not like some people think that's crazy to spend that much time together, but like, one, it doesn't feel like it's an extreme amount of time that we spend together. Two, it doesn't feel forced. It's something that we willingly do. We enjoy the time that we have together. Like we date. You know, everything is better than it was when we started, and I just wanted to keep being better. You know, so it just gets better with time. Like I feel like every year we get a little bit stronger, we get a little bit closer, and we have a little bit more fun.
I concur. I think the best way that I can sum it up, it may sound cliched, but I think I've learned that um, I've got my fairy tale. I've said this before and I'll say it again. It may not be the traditional fairy tale, you know, but if you think about it, fairy tales always come with some kind of obstacle and some kind of journey to the win. And that's what I felt like this relationship has been. We've had our obstacles, and I'm sure we'll continue to encounter them, but we've found our sweet spot. And I can only pray and hope that it continues to be our spot and that we will continue to face challenges together. And I posted on Instagram the other day, and I'm going to say it again here. I've never been loved wholly in the way that Jay has loved me, um, as a whole person. The idiosyncrasies, the flaws, the things that he does find valuable. Like, he doesn't pick the pieces of me that he wants to love. He just loves me in all fullness, and he makes that known. And that was something that I needed in my life, and it took me a really long time to realize and recognize exactly what he was doing. When you don't know, you don't know, but when you have something to compare it to, it makes things a lot more tangible for me to understand. And I just understand that, like, I've found my person. And so if I could sum up the last 13 years, I would say that it's my fairy tale. And I can't wait to add more chapters to it.
Yeah, I'll just say this last point. Like, you know, all the things that she says, I appreciate. I try my best to, you know, do my best, but like, it's easier to do those things when you feel like it's being reciprocated. You know what I mean? So like, everything she says, I co-sign it as well. Like I feel the same way. Like I give just as good as I get when it comes to the interchange of love and respect that we share.
And that's it, folks. That's our time. I think we probably went over, but it's all good. You know, you can pause it, play it back. You can catch us on Anchor, Spotify, all streaming platforms, in all honesty. And this will be a video that gets dropped on YouTube. And we hope that you guys keep up. Catch the clips on Instagram, A_J podcast. Of course, APY blog, Big Talk _J. Or no, you say it. That.
No, you can say it.
Mr. Laconic _J.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so those are all the places you can catch us. And of course, check out the blog, www.apnblog.com. It's been a fantastic time recapping the last 13 years of our marriage together, and we hope to be able to do this every year.
Yep. And we hope to give you something every week. We intend on being back next week. We gonna hold. I'm saying that because we gonna hold to it. So check it next Monday for the next podcast. I'm speaking for both of us because I'm the head of my household.
That was him, not me. This is your ASMR.
I said what I said. Start whispering in the mic. The freaks gonna come out.
Okay, I can do nothing. We'll catch y'all next time. Bye.